Welcome to the Game Tea Time podcast, addition to the Game Dev.tv podcast, but we're here joined by Lee Bamber. So Lee, can you let them know a little bit about who you are and we'll go from there?
Okay, yeah, I'm Lee Bamber. I'm the CEO of TheGameCreators Limited, and we specialize in creating game making products, both developing them and publishing them as well.
Awesome. So I like to always ask everybody who comes on, how'd you get started with game development? What was the thing that was like, okay, this is it, and I'm doing it for the rest of my
life? Yeah, I know. It's one of the best questions, isn't it? Well, I started when I was 9 years old. It was a computer called the VIC-20, the Commodore VIC-20. It had 3 kilobytes of memory and a programming language.
Yeah.
And so you could write games, provided you could fit them inside 3K, which is the size of a text file.
Oh my goodness.
So that's how I got started, and I've never looked back through all of the intervening technologies.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, how do you view the game industry now compared to what you were able to do back then in that text file? Like, does it just like make you more excited, more passionate about creating games?
Oh yeah. Because it was just like someone gave you a hammer, and so all you could really do is just keep bashing the hammer. Now we've got so many tools, so many toys, and everything gets faster every year. There's more things coming out. So totally excited about what's going on today compared to, what was it, 30 years ago?
50. Hey.
So yeah, it's very good. But you'd think it'd be easier with more tools, but actually it's more complicated. So you've got more to learn. There's more things to sort of work with. There's more stuff to connect together in a million different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, it was simpler back then, but it's no less exciting now.
Mm-hmm. And so why do you think it's what were you gonna say, Ricardo?
I was going to say that also limitations breed creativity, right? Because now you have so many tools and so many things you can do.
You're given 5 kilobytes of memory to make your games. You get very creative about every byte of memory that you use.
And so do you think it gets harder, not just in like being more creative, but like just because there's so many tools, it takes a larger amount of work and effort and people to make the games we have today?
I think it's easier in that sense. I think what you have is more choice, and sometimes you get choice paralysis. There's just so many things you can do. It's like, what do I do first? So you sit there thinking, well, I could do everything. But we'll do something. Do one thing.
do one thing, yeah.
But yeah, I like the fact there's more choice and different levels. You can come in at super easy level, or you can come in at super complicated. So it's a lot more accessible now than it used to be.
Awesome. And how do you think someone can limit the choices they have so they can actually choose one of them instead of getting stuck with all the choices? Do you think there's a process to that, or you just like, I'm just going to choose one and then you go with that one?
I think go with what you're going to enjoy, right? And what fits in with what you want to do. Usually what you want to do is what you want to do, and when you do it, you enjoy it. So if you just want to thrash around really quickly and make a game, so right, made a game, great. Then do that, go in at that easy level. If you want to learn the inner mysteries of assembly language and high level, low level C, C++, then do that. That you get a kick out of that. So I would say go with what's enjoyable, because then all the rest just follows so much easier than something you hate doing all the time.
Right? Where does the creativity come when you hate it? You're like, oh, I gotta go work on this. You're sure you'll get it done, but there's no passion done into that. And actually, for you, how did you find that like certain things were enjoyable and certain things weren't? Or how did you have the resources to choose the one that you wanted to do?
Well, at first it was a hobby. So I just made games because back in the day, there weren't actually that many games to buy off the shelf. You effectively were writing your own entertainment. And then, a few games came in, you just thought, oh, that's a really great game. So you copy it, you write your own game that looked like that game, and you cut your teeth that way. But what I found after a while is I wasn't that great at writing games. I was okay, but I wasn't going to set the world on fire writing games. But I did find I was good at is writing the game's tools, the level editors, the sprite editors, the music programs, the stuff that you also need to write before you can write the game. And so I found that I got a smile on my face every time I produce that. So it's no surprise decades later I'm still creating these tools.
It is kind of incredible, because isn't that what GameCube Max is? It's like a 3D game maker that you can just go in and make whatever you want without coding. Because I think you mentioned in one of you could just go Unity and and them, and they have the scripted things, but why don't you go in here and you don't have to worry about that? You just go and make the world and assets, and you can make your dream game.
Exactly. It's the sort of thing I would have wanted back then. So the idea is, yes, you can learn to program, you can learn to script, but there's still this bit of a gap. If you're going to do anything that's sophisticated, that looks decent, like, so when you put it out into the world, no one laughs at you. You know, to produce something like that, you can need to script. You can need to create art and create unique narrative and all the rest of it. Wouldn't it be great if there was a tool where you didn't need to know how to code or script or create art, but still have a great result at the end of it? So that was the mission for Game Guru Max. Make sure that we do all the hard work and then just expose all of the flexibility and the creativity to the end user, who maybe one day they'll script and program, but for today, they just want to make a game and feel good about that.
Wow. Like, looking more into it, it's really in depth and amazing. Like, I feel like this is the dream thing everybody wanted, and it almost seemed like impossible to make, and you were like, I'm just gonna go make it. So how did it all come about? When was like the day you were like, okay, this is it, this is the thing I'm gonna make? I don't know what's gonna be called yet, but I'm gonna go out there and find a way to make it. What day was that, and like, how did you go from there?
Well, I think I did think a lot of people would have tried to do. Went to college, did some stuff there. Then I thought, right, I'm sick of having no money. I'm going to get a job. So I went working for a publisher. Did 5 years there.
Yeah.
Then they sent me off to Denmark to work for LEGO. And when I came back, they'd moved my desk. And I thought, well, do I want to work back in an office, or do I want to do what I want to do? And what I wanted to do was create tools and programming languages and all that kind of stuff. So I set up a little website, wrote it in Notepad.
No way.
I wrote the software, put it on. Was selling like 2 copies a week, but I had no bills, so there's no pressure. And it all started from there, and that was in 1999. And yeah, it's been tool after tool after tool, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, trying more things out, and figuring out what works and what doesn't. So it's basically had over 20 years of trying to figure out what's the easiest way to have people create stuff. And this is the latest version of that tool. So hopefully we've got a few things right. It's not just dropped out the sky. This has sort of been growing for years and years.
That's incredible. I want to go back actually to the part where you're talking about after college. And so you said you didn't have to worry about bills. Is that because it's just like you had a place and you were all set, or the job was good?
I live with my parents.
Oh,
so
okay, yeah.
They paid the bills, providing I kept my bedroom clean. But yeah, it was a case of I did have a job. It was well paying. And I said, Luke, I've made a decision. I want to quit my really expensive job. And I'm going to come back, and will you support me whilst I build out this software and sell it? And it says, well, we trust you. We know that you're good. Do it. So, are you mad?
That's amazing.
This is a really great job. Why would I quit it? But they said yes. And yeah, the rest is history. It completely worked.
Wow.
Was never happy when I started creating stuff that I wanted to create and then giving it to the world and seeing what they thought. And fortunately, they liked it as well. So
that's amazing. Yeah, because I think a lot of people would be afraid to go back and be like, oh no, I don't know how people are going to view me. Like, I feel like I'm a failure. I should be on my own. But you were like, no, this is a great opportunity. Like, you guys support me while I build this thing. And then eventually that will support me. And even then, it doesn't even really matter. There's no need to have that social like stigma of like, I need to be out on my own, or like, it doesn't really.
No, it's do what you enjoy. Somebody told me that ages ago. If you're going to spend your life doing something, do something you enjoy. And even if you get bad, if you don't get paid for it, at least you got something you enjoy every day. You have something to get up for. And I think everything else can stem from that. You know, if people don't like your social presence, as long as you're happy, you know, go and hate somebody else.
Right? No, there's always gonna be someone who'll be like, will love what you're doing and enjoy it and be a friend and be social about it. It's just those people, I guess, who maybe are afraid, or just like they just grew up in a different environment and they just view it differently. But yeah, at the end of the day, just do what you love, do what you enjoy, because you're gonna be doing it for a long time. So
the secret of life, exactly. I mean, if you can say that this guy started when he's 9, he's now nearly 50, and he's still literally doing the same thing, it must be good. Or at least he must enjoy it.
Exactly. But not even that, like, thing you created is incredible. Like, I'm looking at this, and it's like Unreal Engine in a way, or Blender, but instead of it being really daunting and you open it up, it's like, no, let's all the hard stuff we did for you. The thing you got to do now is make the game, make the levels, make the enemy, make the story. Just do. go out there. And I think that's incredible. It's going to help people make more games and make it easier for everyone and allow more creativity. So, oh yeah, it's awesome. I'm
It's
glad
not
you
just.
spent 20
I
years.
must mention, it's not just me. I often get fish thrown at me. Lee, it's not just you. You're part of a team now. Over the last couple of decades, I have built up a company, and you need
Yeah.
people and surrounding you. And I happen to have some of the best team. Everyone suppose all team members say they got the best team members, but I have got people who were doing game makers 20 years ago. You know, there was a company called Europress, you know, and they were all over game makers and edutainment titles and stuff. And these people are now working with me, in order to make sure that the experience is correct. When you go into software, you want to play some demos first. You don't want to get thrown into the lion's den. Play some games. Open up one of the games and edit it a little bit. Get a quick win. For right, I've took one enemy and I've added 10 more, and I'll replay the game and see if that game is still playable. So we've got a big team who can come in and say, no, that's a better experience. I just happened to be the one that was the first with my tiny little computer. But I think you can't do it solo for that long to get to this level of consumer product. You do need a strong team, people who are specialized in different areas who can bring in what they're passionate about. As I'm excited about one thing, there's someone else who's going to be excited about some other thing that I can't stand. So great, get that team member on your team and then let them do that. And if you get enough of those people in those disciplines, it is a lot easier to create large product, and everyone being behind their particular bit, and then the sum of those parts, obviously, hopefully, is a great product.
100%. And so when you did go back and live with your parents and start this project, what was that like? Was it like the blank screen? You're like, okay, I got to make this thing that I imagine and will help people. Where did you start? How did you start? Did you do like a bunch of prototypes? Did you look at a lot of documentation? Like, how was that all process?
If I remember, it was it was a game called Goo. The idea, it was similar to something like, I would say Sims or Populous, or something where there's a life of its own, and these blobs are just moving around, and they're like seas, and you can grab the blobs and make things out of them. And that evolved into, oh, let's have it so you can have more control of that creative. And then I thought, no, let's do a programming language, and then you can create that. So eventually went through all these evolutions. I ended up with the first programming language that I actually told anyone about, which was called Basic. And basically what that was, yeah, absolutely. I cut my teeth on Basic. That's Commodore VIC-20, Commodore 64. They use Basic to let you create simple programs. But I sort of, you know, if we had lots of game commands like, you know, bring up an object, load an image, play a sound, that's a good solution as well. And so Basic was born, and that went out. And now I wasn't making the games, everybody else was making the games, and I just carried on working on the programming language, make sure that the commands worked and it ran on different computers, etc. So yeah, that's how it sort of came about. But of course, that was just the first one. Then we went on through all the other game makers, and you only have to look up the game creators just to see the pantheon of game makers going all the way back to 20 years ago.
And then while making, did you have any moments where you were like, this might not work out, or like had self-doubt, or were just like, this is too hard? And how'd you get through that?
Once, yeah, I think about 17 years ago. And back then it was essentially just my business partner and me, maybe one or two others. And he came to me and says, we've only got £5,000 in the bank. It's terrible. We're going to go bankrupt. I said, no, that's all right. That's a lot of money, isn't it? He said, no, we've got wages. That's like 1 month's spend. And if we don't make more money, then we won't have a business. That was the only time in over 20 years where, and I wasn't particularly worried, because as I said before, I'd do it for free. I do this because I enjoy it. You know, if I have to go back and just live in a shoebox, I'll still be programming. I'll scrape together some computers, get them up and running, start coding away with a smile on my face. But yeah, I think I'll let other team members do the worrying. I just crack on and try and create stuff.
You guys worry about it? I'm just gonna keep programming. We'll figure this out. I mean, that's how you have to be, especially if you're like in a leadership position. Like, you got to be like, look, this guys, I know there's just worries, but we're gonna have to make it work, and we're just gonna have to keep doing what we set out to do. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, I'm still gonna be programming. So let's make it work.
Yeah, and it's not even enforced. I can, you know, some people might say, I'll pretend that everything's fine and that'll make they'll be confident and they won't worry. So that's something that a leader would do. I genuinely don't worry. So, you know, it's super powerful when you realize it's just, yeah, he's literally not worrying right now. Well, if he ain't worrying, I certainly ain't worrying.
Yeah.
But you know, some people, they're habitual when it comes to worrying. They think,
yeah,
it's one of those skill sets.
I think it's like a psychology thing, right? Like if they don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, then they want to worry constantly.
That's it.
They want that
The
sense of
unknown.
security. Yeah, but a lot of magic happens in the unknown. Like this wouldn't have come without the unknown.
I think maybe I've always had a safety net. You mentioned it earlier. Some people probably don't have that safety net.
Yeah.
And so it will be scary as hell if you were to give up your paid job. Might not be very glamorous, but it's a job. To then throw yourself into the unknown to pursue your dream.
Yeah.
That could be very scary.
I mean, that is a big point. But I think also it can bring up this thing where it's like maybe if they can create themselves a safety net, then they can do what you did without them having to worry. So like, sure, maybe they don't have parents to fall onto, but they can maybe save up money at this job they don't like so that they can then have a safety net so then they can do what they want and enjoy for the rest of their lives. But again, there's like different perspectives.
College, you know, if the potentially grants where you'll be paid to go and study for 2 years. You've got apprenticeship schemes where a company will hire you as a junior, so you can start off at the lower end and still in the area they want to be in, not particularly well paid, but you have that bubble where someone will train you up, look after you for a while until you find out exactly what it is you want to do. I think it's definitely worth looking, you know, 100%. Rather than just saying, oh, there's no point, it's all scary. Yeah. Go and have a look. It might not be as scary as you think.
No, I agree. I think you hit a good point where it's like, don't just give up. Don't just say, oh, I can't do it, or it's, you know, scary. Go find a way. Might not be as easy for some people, but hey, find a way to get there because it's going to be better when you do figure it out. Like you're doing what you want and you're going to be doing what you want for the rest of your life because of it. So wouldn't everybody want that, to do what they enjoy, to wake up happy?
I can imagine that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And so, is there moments when you feel like, hey, I've made it? Like, was there a moment in a day where you were like, this is it? Or did you have that the second you decided this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
There's a few times, those wonderful, like, I can't believe I'm standing here doing this thing.
Yeah.
I think the first one, because the first one always sticks with you. It was back in the day when there wasn't really a thing as a convention. This was way back when it was a show in London called ECTS. And I got it was a product called the 3D Game Maker, and they'd set up a stand. That was a little pokey 3B2. This was a huge stand with big plasma screens all over walls, pods with software on them, posters, and lots of people all wearing the T-shirts with the product on it. And I'm thinking, cripes, because did I have anything to do with this? Because it was just way out of, you know, the dreams that I first had, which is I'll make some software, I'll make a box, I'll print out the label and stick it on the box, and then I'll take it to the post office and I'll send it to someone. That was my ambition for writing and selling software, to stand there at that convention and see all of that product. That was
such a great moment. Yeah. I mean, you remember that all the time. You wake up every morning, you're like, I remember that. That's it. I did it. I'm doing it. I think everybody wants that moment where they just see their creative work, at least somewhere, where they're like,
the 15 minutes of fame.
50, yep.
I've seen the same grins on people's faces at more recently GDC. There's this whole space now where if you've made a game, you can actually have your game on a pod and people can come up, play your game, talk about your game. And see the same expressions on people's faces, like, can't believe I'm here in this mess. There's a showdown that they've spent $500,000 on their stall, and I'm on the same floor, like not a stone's throw away from them, and all I did was make an indie game and was passionate about it.
It's incredible. So now I want to go back actually to the college. And you think the college part helped you get to where you are now, or it was just like, it was there, but what I really learned was on my own, or was it a mixture of both?
It didn't help me that much. I already knew everything before I showed up. They were teaching me things like COBOL, Pascal, VAX VMS, mainframes. It's stuff like, no, I'm not going to send rockets to the moon. I want to make computer games. And back then, they said, don't be wasting your time with flash trash. No one's going to make any money with games.
Little did they know.
But these days, there's some great game development courses. And in fact, we've been doing a recent recruitment drive, and we look at what people did during their uni, not just what the qualifications were, but what did you produce outside of that? What other things were you doing? Because that coursework wasn't enough. You wanted to make your own games outside of the curriculum, and we look at that. But yeah, these days with the development courses, to give you all the necessary skills in tools, programming languages, design, processes. So it's super useful to have that. Don't have to go on my route of learning it from scratch out of some dog-eared book with no one to talk to and no internet to try and figure out how everything works. That's not necessary anymore.
How'd you do that? Like, how did you do that and not get demotivated? Because like when it comes for me with reading books and programming stuff, it's really difficult. That's why I like videos and other formats. But like I can't imagine back then with no internet being like, all right, I just gotta figure it out.
It was fun. Before that, there
see,
was something called the
fun.
Interteller, and it was a tank game, and you just had these two blobs, and they move around some wall blobs, and you'd fire a bullet blob, and it would bounce off the wall blobs. That was it. That was the entire game. But we play, I mean, my brother, for hours, for tens of hours, for hundreds of hours. It was just one screen with two coloured blobs, a white blob, and some wall blobs. But yeah, that was enough. I saw that, oh, if I could create my own stuff. And I think that was it. I wanted to make stuff all the time. And yeah, and even today I'm creating stuff. I think the moment comes where I've created everything there possibly is to create is the time I will stop. But even back then at the age of 9, with that VIC-20 and the great big tome, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just tapping out these symbols, thinking this is a very big series of things. And you get to the end and you press run, and it would say syntax error. And you think, well, what? I don't know what I'm doing. I just tapped out this big program, and I don't know what I'm doing. But eventually, it runs, and that was a eureka moment when it actually did something on the screen. But yeah, it's voyage of discovery, I think, and you find out what you like. Not everyone's cut out for this life.
Yeah, no.
It can be quite isolating sometimes when you have to lock yourself away and get some work done. But the industry is so massive now. You could take almost any role you want. You know, you could be the sound guy or the finance guy or the marketing girl or the one who goes out to conventions all the time and just be the face of the game. You know, you can play any role you like, not just the geeky programmery role that I particularly enjoy.
I think that's a great point to make, because it's like you get stuck in even just like the big ones, like art, writing, music, programming, and like it's the producer role. But there are so many other roles. Even when you go to art, there's like 20 more there: prop artist, environmental artist, graphic. And so it's like, yeah, like find, maybe you like games, but maybe you don't like programming or art, but maybe you like writing. Well, yeah, go down that path and see how that can work. Or maybe you want to be the convention person. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, like you could be the person who's spokesperson for the game. Imagine all the passion you have for games and in the project you're working on, and you just like, let me just do that. Let me go into the EDC, E3, and just tell the world how much I love this game, how much this game's gonna be amazing, how much you guys should play it, and it's gonna be fun. But like, yeah, like I love that. It's motivating.
You've probably heard that the games industry was bigger than the music industry like 10 years ago. And I don't know, is it bigger than the movie industry now?
I think it's actually massive. I actually think it's bigger than the movie and TV industry combined. I think. Let me see. Let me look at the statistics. So it's more than sports and movies combined. So that's huge, because sports make so much money. So yeah, that's funny, because remember they're like, you're not gonna make money with games, and now look who's making the most money.
I know. Now look who's laughing.
Yeah.
I know. I got told off by one of my early college lecturers saying, "You're wasting your time, Lee. You're wasting your time." And he was showing off because he earned £300 for one day's consultancy, and said that's what you should be in. That's the real money. Go with the money. And I was not interested. I just wanted to make pretty patterns on the screen that do bleeps, and you press this button and that thing happens. And yeah, I imagine at the time it did seem like I was a bit cavalier about it, but yeah, as you said, turned out to be one of the biggest industries in the entertainment sector.
And the funny thing too is it seems like the world's moving into like a gamification world, where like even like apps like your Moe's, Chipotle will now reward you kind of like a quest to go out on a Tuesday and buy this for free to bowl, and they get points for it so they can use it later to buy food. I'm like, guys, life is becoming a game. It's ironic. It's like you're laughing at games now, you're living in a game.
No, you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, you know, we do kind of get molded by our environment, and as our environment increasingly becomes computers, computer games, technology, digital, we're gonna take a lot of traits out of that and almost become part of the program. we're in the
Metaverse.
Matrix.
Yeah, we're Ready Player One. Get ready. How do you feel about all that? The metaverse, and, gamification, crypto, NFTs. Let's start with the metaverse. How do you feel about metaverse?
I stayed away from crypto. I thought it was just a whole new thing to learn, and I had too much stuff going on my brain. So thought I'd leave that to those who are really into it. VR, I have a soft spot for. I love the idea that there's a new media. We've been living with keyboards and peripherals and flat screens and stuff for so long.
Too long, yeah.
The idea that you can throw yourself into a world that's going to be increasingly more present, real. You know, I look forward to the time when you can just use your hands instead of a controller. And we've already started to see technology around that. The fact you can actually feel the wind on your face and the smells of your environment and the nuances and almost just be there. You know, I always think of it as the Star Trek holodeck. You can get to that point where you can literally just step into this other experience. It's everything then. It's movies, it's music, it's games, it's walking simulators. It's whatever it is you can have in that one medium, and it'll take care of all your needs. Of course, I imagine it'd be quite lonely standing there in your room on your own, just being photons thrown at you. But I think it's an exciting medium, and we're going to be exploring that with Game Guru Max. We've done VR for 10 years. It's just we've never really pushed it. The closest we ever did was with an educational product called VR Quest, which is doing all right. But I want to bring that really great, not just VR, but create stuff in VR. You know, create something and then make it VR, or be in VR and create stuff. Those sorts of thoughts is what's swimming around my head. So as you can see, nearly 50, and you're still thinking about what he's going to do in the next 20 years.
Oh, I'm excited. A new version of Game Guru Max, but like VR edition, where you're in the VR suit, in this world, creating it with your hands. You become literally God.
It'd be awesome. It's like holodeck. Please create a tree. Dink.
Yeah. No, but I think actually once we get to the point where we are in VR, I think more people would be comfortable with the whole gamer aspect. Because maybe some people don't like just sitting on your chair all day and playing games on a keyboard. But if they're standing now and interacting with it, it doesn't feel so like that stereotypical, oh, I'm just in my room. No, it's like now you could interact with it, and you're standing up now and you're punching things and you're feeling it, and it's real life, just now in the virtual world. I think that's what people don't understand. Like games are just with real life, but someone else's like imagination of the real life. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, you're now in that world and now interacting with it. And those games are getting so beautiful. If you play Horizon, like it feels like real life. You just now have to get the VR goggles and you're there in this whole new universe that you're like traveling to. It's like we want to travel to planets. Well, you know, planets are kind of barren. What if we travel to a planet that has life and a story and characters?
You know what? As gamers, we've always had to do that suspension of disbelief. Even with the really bad games back in the dawn of time, we just imagined it was an elephant.
We did, though.
Of a cube. You know, we added our own self to believe that for a short while, believe that experience. And I think even when VR gets photorealistic like you wouldn't believe, I still think we'd have to bring in our own. We'd have to check life at the door, go in, and then believe that universe, believe that world for the time.
Which we should, because like life has its own moments where you're like, I'd rather just go do like play a game or read a book, watch a movie to escape it. But like, go to a world where it's your imagination. I guess what people really want, to just enjoy that imagination without having to think it, but to visually experience it. And now
the passive versus interactive. Sometimes you really just want to switch off and just let the experience take you over. Because we spend so much time doing the interactive part in our daily lives. So now it's just to kick back and just go into passive mode and just chill for a bit.
Yeah. I'm curious, what's your favorite game? Or like what are some games that inspire you?
Well, obviously it's a long journey, so there's a lot of games. I think System Shock 2 was really great. Scared the pants off me, that one. Creeping through with no weapons. More recently, I like the Far Cry series. I think
really
nice experiences there, and I like the fact they build on the previous experiences. They get better and better with each one.
Mhm.
So I'm liking that one. As you can imagine, I don't have a lot of time for playing games. I'm pretty much the guy who creates the technology behind the games. So that I'm the poor mug. Everyone else gets to enjoy the games. I have to kind of
I have
make
to
them
build
work.
it, yeah. Hey, but that's fine because then one day you'll be like, you know what, I'm done making games, and you can play all the games you ever
There you
wanted.
go.
Don't
I'm
have
going
to
to play
worry,
30
and then
years
it'll be
worth of
really
games.
good. Yeah, that's gonna be crazy. Once you do all the work, VR will be out. The games will be perfect, polished, and you'll be out there playing them, being like, I did
Wonderful.
it. I made
That's
this
my
happen.
retirement.
Yeah. So let's see what else. What vision do you have for the future of Game Guru Max? 'Cause I think it's an early access, right? So like, is
Yeah.
it where you want it
Yeah.
to be? Is there more you want to do? What is the plan for the future?
Yeah, it's early access because we really want to get the optimization performance, certainly the bugs sorted out so everyone doesn't have to hit those issues with the minimum specs we've got. But we do have a pretty decent roadmap on what we do want to see. At the moment, it's just shooter because that's the one we've spent the most time on with some of our previous products. So we kind of know what we're doing with shooter. But we're very quickly getting into the RPG game elements. So inventories, crafting, story, narrative, conversation trees, skill trees, player progression. That's been the umbrella of RPG, and then puzzle. So things like force fields, teleporters, lifts. Press these 8 buttons in that order for open that door and move this thing and make that appear. And that's the puzzle genre. So we'll be adding RPG and the puzzle to the shooter, and that should give us quite a large scope for a lot of different genres. But also you can mix those mechanics up, so you can have genres that cross and then bleed the lines between those two. I've already mentioned VR because I mean, the video scene behind me,
Yeah.
I got lots of VR headsets.
I noticed that. I was
And
like,
I want to be
whoa.
able to get most of them working with our software. And then further down the road, I'm particularly excited about it's called multi-user. You've probably seen it. It's an everyday thing now. If you go to Google Docs, you can have 5 people writing the same document.
Ah, yeah.
With different colored cursors. And Minecraft also pioneered it, where you can like 5 people in the same area all building at the same time and talking to
I didn't
each
even
other.
think of it
That's
like that.
social
Yeah.
creation. So I call it multi-user. The idea that it's not just you with your software. You can actually have everyone, all your teammates or your friends, coming into that same experience. Everyone doing different bits. You can talk to them live. You can see what they're doing. You can grab what they've got and say, right, I'll try that now. So it's like being in the same room with your team, but it's virtual. And then, of course, a subset of that is multiplayer. Once you've got everyone collaborating, it's just a section of, right, are we ready to play our game now? Right, yeah, everyone stop, down tools. We're going to see what our game plays like so far. So everyone just runs off into the lobby or whatever, and then they can play that. So those are some of the big hitters that I'd like to see Game Guru have as like extra unique selling points. But there's a lot of other nuancy stuff that we still need to do, like making sure the importer's better, so you can import different kinds of models, bigger models, different kinds of sounds and videos, and all the day-to-day stuff that you're going to want. And we've been running game making communities for years, and one thing we've learned is it's an insatiable appetite. The list is nearly infinite in terms of what people want and the specifics. And we can't just ignore those just for go for the big shiny new features. So it's a combination of initially performance and optimization to get the software correct, working on all those low-hanging fruits of people that, well, that's only like a 5-minute job. Can you just do that and get it in so I can finish my game? Thank you very much. And then the bigger items, so you can have more genres, more ways to play the game, and more people to play it with.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm excited for all that. It's gonna be coming out. Now, how do you manage all that? Like, do you have like a spreadsheet and you're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do this year and the next year? Or are you just like, this is my dream and we're gonna make it happen over time?
I wish it could just be coming out my head. No, it's multiple spreadsheets across multiple project management systems and a small army of managers to run their different responsibilities. I wish it was a kind of just a one-man band, because that's how I started off. And there was a certain private joy in knowing that you were the management, the accountant, the programmer, the artist, the sound guy, the publicist, the guy who went to the post office.
Yeah,
I
did
mean,
it all.
there was something about that. But yeah, at this level, we have to organize. We use something called project teamwork, which is a really nice way to collaborate with a lot of people, and everyone sort of, if you've got something to say, you can put it in a particular area, and it's like a conversation thread for that subject. It doesn't get lost. So someone says something, it's like, oh, when did you send that, and where is it? It actually organizes everything that everyone says, all the contributions, into the correct places. Makes it a lot easier to run a large-scale project.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I asked this because it's been on my mind, but I was curious about when was the moment when you were like, I need more people. I can't just do this one-man band. Like, what was that process like? And how did you get over like, okay, I'm doing it on my own, now I have to delegate it? And how did that go?
That's a good one. I've not been asked that one before. I think it wasn't my idea. I think I am at heart, my kernel, a one-man band with all the instruments glued to me. I think it was the people I recruited early. My business partner, way back in like 2002, he was my old boss, and he was just finishing what he was doing. He says, "Do you want any help?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And he was the one, I think, who understood the power of a team. You get people who can do it. And then he knew his boss. And ultimately, his boss joined this ragtag company. And he knew even more about the value of teams and delegation and people in the right places. So I'm absolutely not taking credit for that. I think I just surrounded myself with very clever people, and they took care of big teams and things. But I was always relied upon to sort of have that overarching vision of, at the end of the day, what do you want to make? Now you've got this team of people. What do you want to do with them? Well, I want to make this really great product, and I think it's a really good idea. Right, let's do that then. I guess that's why I remain CEO, because I can hold on to that and try and get it through to a finished product. Because you also have to be a bit of an entrepreneur. If you want to go out and do that one-man band thing, you kind of want to be able to sell something at the end of it. You know, get a kick out of, I've made a product and now I can sell it. And I always had that in my soul. So I guess that's why I'm still in the role that I am in now as CEO, making sure that we'll do it one product at a time and try and make that product as good as it can be.
You ever get a lot of pushback? Like, how does the process go with you being in charge and all these other people delegating things? Do you ever feel like, oh, hey, that's not the vision I really set out to, but then they're like, hey, maybe this will be better over long? Like, how do you deal with maybe internal shifts or fights? Not fights, but like
you communicate. That is the only way. You don't take it personal. We're all professionals at this point. And so if someone has a grievance, say it. I don't want people sitting in the corner sulking, saying, oh, I'd have done it different. Tell me. Let's have a proper bust up. Let's have an argument. Let's see whose idea is right. If I'm wrong, I'll hold my hand up and say, I'm absolutely wrong. You're right.
Yeah.
What was I thinking? And it's a stronger unit that way. And that's what we do. It's horses for courses. Different people will do things in different ways, but the team I seem to be surrounded with are honest, hardworking. They'll tell you straight they think you've done something wrong, and they're all out for improvement. We're all looking to try and be better as individuals and be better team members, and ultimately that will produce better product, more success for the company and everyone in it.
And how do you cultivate that culture in the company of, having openness to dialogue and to bring our own ideas?
I think honesty. I think it's much easier just to be who you are. They don't like it, then they don't like it. If I had to sort of put on some sort of pretend person or just have some process to work with these, I wouldn't stand it for very long. I think I'd go a bit nuts. So I just be me and I be honest. And if they don't like it, they don't like it, or they agree with me or disagree with me. So there's no great plan. I think everyone in the team is themselves, and I think that's how it works. We sort of, if it didn't work, if someone came in and really wasn't compatible, they just get pushed out like a bar of soap, because they just wouldn't gel. But the people we've ended up with, and it's taken years to kind of collect these pods of people, is we all glue together. We're all compatible. And so there isn't really a lot of friction to worry about. So I think that's the secret sauce. But it takes years, I think, to find the right people and to trust them to do what they do best, and then make them part of that family. So then, we are pulling in the same direction. But yeah, it's no secret. I think the secret is time. The secret is time.
Yeah. And did you notice any difference with the way you work after the pandemic with remote work and everything? Because this type of work environment, I believe, would probably work better in person, right?
Well, when I worked at Europress, I actually advocated that we should all work from home because I had to travel for an hour and a half in the car every day, and the traffic jams are horrible. And I said, look, I'm knackered by the time I get into work. Can't I just work from home with my computer? I'll get more done. No. You need to be here at 9 a.m. Otherwise, we don't know what you're doing. You could just be skiving off all day. And so when I had the opportunity to create my own company, I said, right, this is going to be a virtual company. No offices, no premises. Everyone works from home and everyone communicates through emails and the internet and stuff. And as I guessed, it works really well. So when the pandemic came along, no change whatsoever. Everyone's still working from home, communicating. In fact, they're all locked in their houses now, so they had to work even harder.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, I hate to say it, but not only were we not affected really by the pandemic in terms of premises and travel and stuff, but I think our productivity increased ever so slightly as a result. So we were fortunate in that was the way the company was set up well before COVID.
Yeah, and I imagine the tools you use to work remotely also improved because with more people working remotely, I noticed that things like Zoom, Skype, and so on had big improvements as well.
Yeah, it's weird. That one surprised me. Before the pandemic, it was just emails and just project management tools and stuff like that. Messages was enough. Strangely, after the pandemic, we felt the need to have Zooms and face-to-face conference calls. I don't know, it was almost like we just needed to know that there was a human being at the other end of the line. And so, yeah, and towards the end of the pandemic, where we are now, it's like we're going to keep it. We're keeping this idea of face-to-face Monday morning calls with the whole team and just, switching our cameras on. It's more productive. You get a lot more communication. I never realized that. So much communication can happen when you see the expression of the faces of the people. The incredulity when you're coming up with some new idea, it's like you realize either how stupid it is or how ambitious it is. But you wouldn't get that in an email. It only happened on a Zoom call.
I agree. Those Zoom calls are nice though, especially during the pandemic. Like we did a lot of this podcast, and it's just like feel like people come together, they start to understand more. You don't have the hassle of driving there. You're just like, hey, let's do a quick like an hour call. Maybe that's all I got. I get to know you there. I get to know you more, and then you're done, and then you can move on with your day. And it just allows, I think, for more connectedness. I don't know. I guess because I'm a gamer, I think gamers connected really well during the pandemic. They were like, guys, more time to play games, more time to connect. But everybody else who really needed that social interaction kind of lost it. But also, you really just go on Zoom or play a game with someone and you kind of get the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it. Maybe that's why everybody really flocked to like, let's just do Zoom calls because I know you're there, but I want to see your face. I don't want to just text you. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're at an interesting point as well because right at the start, you had a few people in the company that joined after COVID hit. So they were kind of outsiders because they never met everyone. Now, a huge portion of your team or people in the company joined after it, so you're getting to go back to the office now and like meet people that you work with for like 2 years for the first time, and it's quite an interesting phenomenon, I guess.
I missed working in an office. It was the travel that got me. And I like to work. I like to get in and I like to do work. And so often in offices, you see people standing around at the water cooler, dragging out that cup of coffee for like 2 hours. It's like, come on, you get paid more than me, and I haven't seen you do any work yet. And it's like 3 hours in. So it wound me up sometimes going into an actual workplace. So I guess if I can stay at home, I can delude myself that everyone else is working as hard as I am. But yeah, the biggest thing I didn't like the driving. It was a lot, all that traffic, stud traffic. No, I don't miss that at all.
Yeah, but did you work in London or outside of London?
In Manchester, so okay. It's the northern London. So yeah, I lived in Wigan and I worked in Manchester, and that was a long commute. Yeah. But that's where the job was. There were no programming games jobs in a tiny little coal town. the nearest one was Manchester, and I had to drive a very long way to get it. But the good news is the wage was great. A wage in Wigan, that was what I was getting from Europress as a junior. It was a skilled wage back in Wigan. There were people who time served for 20 years, and I was on more than just because I was fighting around with a computer in Manchester. So I had compensations, but yeah, I did not like the commute.
How long was it? Like an hour, 2 hours?
It was about an hour, and well, it depends. I could probably do it in an hour, but then when the motorways fill up, you may as well call it 2.
So that's
Oh, so you
2
drove
there,
there?
2 back.
2 hours there, 2 hours back.
Oh,
But I had a trick
no.
because I like to work. What I do is, first of all, I had to convince the company there was such a thing as overtime, because they had this weird idea that because you're on salary, we don't give you overtime. I said, I want overtime and salary. So I said, well, we'll invent it for you. You can also have overtime.
Whoa.
So I worked till like 10 o'clock at night when everyone had gone home and all the traffic was gone and the roads were empty. And then I had my own road, my own motorway going back home, and I earned more money. So I kind of made it work for me. But that morning crawl, no, didn't like that at all.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I have a lot of colleagues nowadays that they used to work in central London, and they used to take 2 hours to get to work every single day. So 2 and 2 back, right? They are never going back full time to the office.
Oh, that's like best part of your day. I mean, 4 hours is half.
Yeah, half your free time. Yeah.
The best, yeah. I remember an interview with the guy who invented C++, and he says he does his best hours in the first 4 hours or something of his day. When he wakes up, 4 hours, that's his best. That's where his mind is most active and he great stuff. The 4 hours that we've just spent is brushing our teeth, driving for 2 hours, getting through the office politics. By the time you sat at your keyboard,
You're done.
your brain's already going to sleep.
Yeah, I don't ever see being in the office being a really good choice, unless it's for like cooperative work, like we're looking at a board and maybe choosing different things or maybe a hands-on thing. But other than that, it's like you literally go to the job to sit at a desk to just work on your own thing. It's like, why don't just do it at home? You know?
Yeah, my sentiments exactly.
I just never understood
because
that.
they didn't trust. It was like, well, we can't see you. You're not. I was back in the day when you used to have punch cards. You know, when you went and worked. I used to be a potato peeler, and you had to clock on, do your shift, clock off. They did not trust anyone. You had to prove you was physically there and prove you was physically out the building. And I don't think that mentality really changed much, even with the advent of computer companies and stuff. I had to leave the whole system. I had to create my own company in order to do what I thought was what made sense. What made sense was getting up, rolling out of bed, right in front of the keyboard and start coding, you know, when I have ideas. And I can get maximum hours extracted out of that day. And have a good day's work and get more done, which is obviously what it's all about.
Yeah, so you get more done and you have more free time to hang out with your family, friends.
Absolutely, yeah. And when it's time to go home, oh, you're already there.
Yeah.
And small breaks as well, like a 20-minute break when you're in the office is like pointless. If you're at home, you like make some coffee and maybe do something.
I was about to say that the coffee is much
better
better at home than it is out of them horrible machines which just seem to regurgitate slurry and then put some tepid water in it. Oh, you're right. It's really encouraging me to. I think they didn't want people to have coffee breaks. That's why they made the coffee so revolting. But yeah, the snacks and the refreshments much better when you work from home than when you're out and about, and it's significantly cheaper, especially when you're going out to the butty van and you're paying somebody else's profits. You can just raid the tin cupboard if you're working from home. So yeah, I could give you a laundry list of benefits, and I had that same list 20 years ago. But I think only now, maybe with the pandemic, people are starting to say, "Well, maybe Lee was right after all."
You're like, hey, see, this is it. It's the life. Do what you love. Don't drive to work. Do it remotely. This is the good life. You found the hack, the secret.
I did. I hacked life.
20 years ahead of your time. Yeah.
At least 20 years, yes, but maybe I'm now behind the times because there's it's moved at such a pace. You have to specialize. There's no way I could be, what do they used to call it, the Renaissance man, the person who knows everything about every subject. you can't be there anymore. It's too big. There's
really
too much
can't.
to think about.
Mm-hmm.
You have to specialize, I think, to something. And my advice is specialize in the thing that puts a smile on your face.
Mm-hmm.
At least
So
that way you then also.
would you say your specialization is just programming, and then from there you build your business? All that's like secondary, but your main thing is programmer.
I think programming is my it's how I express.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my talent is that creative element, that inventing something, having an idea and seeing how it could work. And programming is just my way in which I can then express that. You know, it's like I could probably be having the same ideas, but maybe my how I should express it is sculpting, or it's music. So I'd say my talent is that creative blob, and I just use programming to express it. And I just happen to be pretty good at programming, so I guess I never change my instrument.
That's awesome. And then how do you think people can find that specialization? Just try a bunch of things and see which one they're good at and they enjoy?
Yeah, I think enjoy and good at, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you were good at it and you don't enjoy it, then you could get into the trap of thinking this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life and have a real miserable face.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you find something you enjoy and then you find out that you're good at it, bingo, you've just found a recipe for a successful life. So I would go, look what you enjoy first. And here's the trick. You probably already know what you enjoy. It's probably something you were already very familiar with. It's just because, how do I take what I enjoy and insert myself into the games industry? And I'll guarantee you there's a role that fits what you enjoy to a role within a games dev team or a publisher.
Now, what advice would you give for someone who's like starting out and wanted to basically do what you did? They had an idea, they wanted to bring it to life, then eventually make a company and delegate the work. How should they're starting from scratch. What advice would you give them?
I'd say if it's games that you're into, make games, lots and lots of games. Don't spend 4 years learning to program. Make games by hook or by crook. I'm not just pushing my product. Find whatever tool works for you and make lots and lots of games. I'll guarantee 99% of them will be rubbish. That's not the point. The point is to start flexing your muscles, figuring out what works, what doesn't work. And within that, you'll find out what you're particularly good at when it comes to creating games. You might be good at RTS or first person or third person or something completely off the wall. And then once you've locked in on that, then you can specialize within that remit of making those kinds of games. In the process of making those games, you're going to have to learn lots of tools, but those are just incidentals. Those just come in as you need them. And then you never use it because you just wasted a year. It's best to aim for the end goal. Your end goal is, I'm going to make a game about this. Bang. Make a game, learn the tools as you go. When you finish the game, sure, show some people, but be under no illusions. You're not going to be able to make $1 million with that first game, or even your 10th game or your 20th game. Just shovel them to one side, keep learning, build a team. I suppose that's my advice. I mean, you can do it solo, but find a great artist. Find someone who's good at level design, someone a good sound engineer, someone who'll help you sell it. You know, don't have to be professionals, just people who are willing to, well, I'm interested in that. Let's do something there. Before you know it, you do have this little band of brothers, and it's like, wow, we've got enough stuff here. We could actually make this real. And then that's the risky part. We say, do we all give up our jobs and go and create this thing, or do we all go and work for somebody else? But then it just diverges into lots of pathways of life. But yeah, for that starter off, if you're into games, make games. I think that's a great starting point because you find out a lot about what you need to do and which bits you enjoy.
Oh, that's excellent advice. And it's also when it comes to making games, don't make big games. Don't make WoW. Make smaller games. They're easy to make. Yeah.
Yeah.
That way you can
easy
learn
to
from
make,
them.
easy to throw away when you
Exactly.
don't like it anymore.
Yeah. Well, we're getting to the end of this. But I like to ask everyone that comes on to give a challenge for all the listeners, like a small challenge, whether it's like go find a thing you love or go program something for 10 minutes. But can you give a challenge to listeners, and you can take as much time you need to think of it? And yeah, what's your challenge?
A challenge.
Yeah.
Would this speak to anybody?
Yeah, anybody
whatever
listening.
skill level they're at?
Yes.
All right. My challenge, look at your life. If what you're doing in your life is something you are not enjoying, my challenge to you is find something you do enjoy and do that. And yes, it will be scary, but you will thank me later. That's my challenge. It ain't a small one.
Oh, I love it. That's the best challenge I think we've ever gotten. The one that's going to lead to overall happy. Yeah, no, that's a great one. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Lee. I like to end it off too by handing the mic to you if you want to do any last minute shout outs, quotes, whatever you want to do to end it off. But yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm excited with all the stuff with Game Guru. Wish you the best of luck, and thanks for coming on. The mic's all yours.
No, that's fine. I suppose I will be remiss, and my management team will be throwing vegetables at me if I don't say that Game Guru Max is now available on Steam. So just type out Game Guru Max, you'll find it there. Go check it out. It is awesome. That's all I have to say on that.